Greetings, travelers. My name is Alan, and I'm here on Heavy Metallurgy today to review the new album from Seattle's Xoth. This is their third full-length album. It's entitled Exogalactic, and it's being released on November 3rd, 2023, in association with Dawnbreed Records. Xoth have been an independent band up to this point. It's not clear to me if they've been signed by Dawnbreed or if maybe Dawnbreed's just kind of helping out, or maybe they're in the early stages of a deal. Nevertheless, the new album has arrived. It's their first album in 4 years. In 2019, their second album came out, and Interdimensional Invocations was a quantum leap forward from the band's debut. Enjoyed it quite a bit, so much that I got the CD and hoodie bundle. So I was very interested to see, does the third album 4 years later have the band continuing to build momentum and blast off into the stars, or have they kind of started to lose velocity and crash back to earth? Well, before we talk about the album, I think it's important to kind of try to get a handle on Xoth. If you're not familiar with the band and you just look up, information, written reviews, you see a lot of adjectives and genre tags thrown at this band. I've seen descriptions that basically read that Xoth is a progressive blackened thrash power speed death band. Yeah, that's a mouthful. How does that work out? Well, there are certain components of the band's music that do fall into some different categories. So you kind of have to, dissect the band a little bit to see where all those things come from. First off, in regard to the black metal tag, that's really only in reference to the vocal style, which does have the kind of, hoarse, blackened rasps that we tend to associate with a lot of the modern, blackened death metal or blackened thrash metal. It suits the music fine here, and they're delivered quite well. But there's really no other black metal components in the instrumentation itself. It's really just in the vocal delivery. In terms of the progressive part, I believe that tag's coming around mainly because there is a lot of guitar wizardry going on. If you're not familiar with Xoth, it is a shred fest when it comes to the lead guitar stuff. It's extremely well done, very intricate, and I think some people kind of tend to put the prog tag on the band for that reason, which I'm not sure if it's a great description, because the guitar work is never kind of, wandering off into self-indulgent territory. It's always helping to continue to propel the band forward and make sure it can keep, leaping through time-space as fast as possible. In terms of the death metal tag, this is where we get into kind of the main structure of the music and the songs. There is, sort of a modern melodic death metal aspect to the way the songs are built and what's happening in the rhythm section, but it also is borrowing a bit from thrash metal and even a bit from more traditional or power metal structures. It's, kind of right there in the center of all of those. It's not, chugging enough to make you think that, it's instantly old school thrash metal. It's not brutal enough to make you think that it's, old school death metal. It isn't completely just, double bass drum driven and focusing on the chorus the way power metal songs do. So yeah, it's a little in between there. If you want it summed up with a couple of comparisons, I'd say, imagine the sci-fi, caustic and somewhat technical aspects of a band like Vector on their first few albums, but take that and graft it to the exoskeleton of early Children of Bodom with the very melodic guitar work and kind of the show off skills and stuff like that. And that kind of Children of Vector combination is at least getting you into the right quadrant of space to understand what Xoth sounds like. All right, so that now that we finally have them plotted on our star charts, what's this new album sound like? Well, it's immediately a much cleaner, clearer, and tighter sounding album than the previous. Well, I enjoyed the sophomore effort quite a bit. It still, at times feels, a little rough around the edges in a good way, but Exogalactic feels like it's really cleaned up all of those parts. The songwriting is, very tight. Everything's very focused. Everything's got, a clean, clear sound, not to the point of being sterile or anything like that. Just, it shows there's, a maturity, a progression. The band have spent these past 4 years continuing to hone their spacecraft and, have arrived at, a very solid, very nicely rounded final product. All the, attributes you'd expect from Xoth songs are present, and they start getting thrown at you right off the bat. Within the first 2 minutes of the opening track, Reptilian Bloodsport, which is a fantastic name for a song, by the way, you hear the band go through several different progressions. You're barely 30 minutes into the song when there's a very sudden break for an odd, quirky little synth part. So yeah, just as you were starting to settle in for, the typical roller coaster ride of a Xoth song, kind of breaks and has this, quirky, bubbly synth sound. But fear not, it lasts a few seconds and then it blasts, right back up into, warp 7 kind of speed and gets going again. Within the first, 90 seconds, you're already seeing the guitar fireworks on display in full force. And again, this is a big component of Xoth's sound. If you are not a shred head, this may not be the band for you. Yeah, it's strange to me, but there are people out there who think it's not fun or cool to let the guitars off the chain and kind of just run wild. And personally, I worship at the altar of the guitar, and yeah, this is what I want to hear a cool, top-notch guitarist do. But fear not, it's not all just guitar solo after guitar solo, although there are a lot of them packed into the 40 minutes and 8 songs of this album. There's also plenty of very strong melodic riffing going on to hold these songs together and keep propelling them in the right direction as well. So yeah, you're not even 2.5 minutes into the first song, and they are already reaching far and wide across the cosmos, hitting a lot of different styles, but making them work pretty seamlessly. The music never feels jerky, jarring, or angular or anything like that. It's something that, again, separates them from some of the more proggy technical tags that sometimes get stuck on this band. The songs are always moving forward. The solos are always part of that forward momentum. The rhythm's always part of that forward momentum. So even though these guys are very skilled, the songs are tight and they're playing fast, they're keeping things moving. They're not stopping to bend all the strings in weird angular moments or movements that could make them start to kind of wander off the course trajectory. So yeah, and I think that's one of the really fun things with Xoth is that this is high speed music that's also very melodic, and the bottom line is it's simply fun to listen to. In fact, Xoth and this style of music, it kind of fills a little bit of a gap these days, since a lot of power metal bands have kind of strayed away from this formula into things where they're more synth driven, the vocals are a little more chanty. They're focusing on costumes and stuff like that more. If you just want something that feels like a good power speed metal outing, Xoth delivers in the way that a lot of bands can't so much anymore. 30 years ago, when I wanted this kind of fix, I would go to a band like Gamma Ray. And these days, you don't get that kind of vibe from something like a Windrose, but you can get it from Xoth, absolutely. You can hear this in some of the tracks throughout the album. Well, there'll just be this really fast fluttering guitar riff with the big heavy drumming attack behind it. And again, it's not outrageous to think this could appeal to fans of something like Dragon Force when they're, in their hypervelocity mode. So Xoth is doing a lot of different things in these songs. They're up and down, they're back and forth. It really is a bit of a roller coaster ride, but it's a fast-paced roller coaster ride, and it's an extremely fun roller coaster ride at the same time. The vocals, again, should not be left behind. The lyrics are fun, lots of sci-fi themes, lots of, things from cosmic terrors that hint at, Lovecraft, the same way lots of bands do these days. But, also, more of a nod to maybe some, classic sci-fi type stuff as well. Works incredibly well. I obviously like the album quite a bit. If there are some drawbacks to it, though, the fact that everything is usually moving at such a rapid pace means that it is a bit of a whirlwind of an album. It is one of those experiences where if you're not paying attention, it's going to zip past you very quickly before you've noticed what's occurred. You'll get to the end of the album and think, wait, what just happened? Because all the songs typically are working at a very brisk pace as well, it can start to run together. It's going to take a few spins of this for most people to start to differentiate the songs and realize that, okay, yeah, this solo goes here, that solo goes there, and, to sort out the individual riffs and stuff behind the music. It can become a bit of a blur of speed. I don't mind that because with repeated listens, there are good payoffs to it. It's worth giving some listens. It's not a strictly one-dimensional speed metal album, not in the least. There's more going on here, and it's all executed very well. But yeah, it's just that if you put it on in background and you get distracted with something else, you're not going to register a lot of what's occurring. This is one where you're going to have to, sit down, pay it some attention, at least until you get used to the songs, and then you can have fun listening to it and keep up with the pacing of the whole thing. There's really no weak tracks to point out. The album is very consistent from start to finish. I think folks that enjoyed their previous work should enjoy this one quite a bit. The only reason I can think of that some folks might not like Exogalactic as much as previous albums is that if it comes across as maybe a little too polished and a little too cleaned up for folks, that maybe like, just a little bit of, dirt and, messiness around the edges of this style. But if you don't mind it being a bit cleaner than previous outings, Exogalactic is another great offering from Seattle's Xoth. Glad to see the band is back, doing well, and hope they can continue forward with all of it. All right, that is going to bring this review to a close. So, until next time, everybody remember, keep banging your head and live long and prosper.